In the previous clip, we published the friend saved event from the friend edit view model. Now let's subscribe to that friend saved event in the navigation view model so that we can refresh the name of the saved friend in the navigation. Here we are back in the friend storage solution. I have already created a test method in the navigation view model tests class. In the constructor of this class, I create a new friend saved event and I store it in a field with the name friend saved event. I don't create a mock of the event here, I create the real event, because I want to call the publish method on that event in my test method. And this will allow us to test if the navigation view model subscribes to this event. Okay, let's remove that publish call here. I don't want to call it in my test class's constructor. I want to call it in the test method. The next thing that I have adjusted in this constructor is the setup on the event aggregator. Here I set up the getEvent method for the friend saved event. When this getEvent method is called on the event aggregator, I return the friend saved event that we have created here. Okay, now let's scroll down to the test method that I have created. This method is called should update navigation item when friend is saved. First I call the load method on the navigation view model. After that load method, we have two friends in the navigation view model's friends property. When I scroll up to the setup again, you see on the navigation data provider, we have set up the getAllFriends method to return two lookup items, one with ID 1 and one with ID 2. The first one has a display member that is Julia. The first navigation item view model that is created from this lookup item is the one that I use in my test method. So here you see, I call the first method on the friends property, and I store the navigation item view model in this navigation item variable. Then I store the ID of this navigation item in this friend ID variable. Then I call the publish method on the friend saved event, and as data I pass in a new friend that has exactly that friend ID. And I set the first name to Anna and last name to Huber. After I have published that event, I assert that the display member property of the navigation item has the value Anna Huber. So now let's run this test method. And as you can see, the test is red. The expected result has been Anna Huber, but the actual result is Julia. So now let's go to the navigation view model and let's implement the logic. In the constructor of the navigation view model, we just subscribe to the friend saved event. So on the event aggregator, we call the getEvent method to get the friend saved event. Okay, we need a using directive for friend storage UI events. And on the event, we call the subscribe method, and we need to define an action to subscribe to that event. I just call that action on friend saved, and I ask Visual Studio to generate that method for me. Okay, here we have the method on friend saved, where we receive the saved friend. Now inside this method, we just grab the navigation item that represents that friend. So from our friends property, we want to grab a single item that has the ID of the incoming friend. As you remember, that friends property is of type observable collection of navigation item view model. And such a navigation item view model has an ID property and a display member property. So here we just use the link method single, so we need a using for system link. And we say we want to grab the navigation item where the ID is equal to the ID of the incoming friend. And on that navigation item, we set the display member property to first name and last name of the incoming friend. Okay, that looks good. Now when I hover this, you can see that the setter of the display member property is private. So let's just go to that property and let's make the setter public. Okay, now let's run the tests again. And now our new test is green. But if you are familiar with WPF, you know that we need to raise the property changed event when we update this display member property. Else the change is not reflected in the UI because the data binding is not notified. So let's add another test method where we check that the property changed event is fired for this display member property. In the previous clip, we said that we need to raise the property changed event when this display member property of the navigation item view model is set. We set that property when we receive the friend saved event in the navigation view model. When a friend is saved, our onFriendSaved method is called, and here we update the display member property of the navigation item. We set that property to the friend's first name and last name, so we have the current name of the friend after the friend has been saved. But to update the UI, the display member property needs to raise a property changed event. So let's write now a test to check this. So let's go to the navigation item view model test class. And let's add here another test method that we call should raise property changed event for display member. Okay. Now inside this test method, we need to access the navigation item view model. But as you can see, we just create that navigation item view model in the other test method that we have here. So let's move a bit of this code into a constructor of our test class. Let me just grab the view model here and let's cut these two lines. Let's create a constructor and let's paste the view model. Let's remove the var keyword and let's use Visual Studio to generate the view model field. Let's rename that field and let's put an underscore at the beginning. Now the next thing we need is the friend ID. So let's just grab that constant integer and let's put it at the class level. Let's also rename it and let's put an underscore at the beginning. The last thing we need is the event aggregator mock. So let's just cut the event aggregator mock here and let's also paste it into the constructor. And let's also generate a field for the event aggregator mock and let's put an underscore at the beginning. Okay, that looks quite good. Now we can use the navigation item view model in our new test. So we just grab the view model and we can use the extension method that we have defined already in our extensions class notify property changed extensions. Here we have defined the isPropertyChangedFired method. So let's just copy that namespace here and let's go back to the navigation item view model test class. And let's add a using directive for our namespace that contains the extensions. Now we should be able to call that extension method on our view model. But no, it does not pop up. Let's look back at the extension class and you see this is an extension method for the iNotifyPropertyChanged interface. When we look at the navigation item view model class, you see, this class does not implement that interface yet. So let's just inherit from ViewModelBase, which implements the iNotify property changed interface. Now let's go back to our test class, and now we should see the extension method. Here we go. The action that we want to execute, we just want to set the displayMember property of our ViewModel. Let's set it to changed. The property for which a property change event should be fired is our displayMember property. Okay, so we just store this in a fired variable, and we assert that this variable is true. Okay, cool. Let's run the tests. And for sure, our new test is red. Now let's go to the navigation item view model and let's raise the property changed event when this displayMember property is changed. So we need to implement this property as a full property. The fastest way I know without ReSharper is by just creating a private field, and then I can right click on that field and I can say quick actions, encapsulate field and use property. Okay, here we go. Here we have the displayMember property and here we have the field. I just cut that field here and I paste it at the top of my class. Now in the setter of the displayMember property, I just call the onPropertyChanged method of the ViewModelBase class that fires the property changed event. Now let's run the tests again. And as you can see, our test method is green. So now we are done and we can try the application. Let's open up a friend and let's change the name here. And now let's save that friend. And you see, the navigation has updated. So let's try it again, let's change it back and let's save. And the friend in the navigation has also the saved name. Okay, quite cool. So we are done with the saving of friends. Now let's look how we can add new friends in the friend storage application. In this module, we have used commands to close a tab and to save a friend. As you have seen, commands with their methods execute and can execute are really great to use in unit tests. You can simply call the execute method to execute the command, and you can check the return value of the canExecute method that tells you if the command can be executed or not. The next important thing we have seen in this module is that if you want to test the subscription of an event, you need to use the real event class and not the mock object in your unit test and call the publish method on your event instance. Then you can verify that the subscriber does something when the event has been published. Okay, cool! So we are done now with closing tabs and saving a friend in the friend storage application. Now let's look how we can add new friends in our application.